Hello, and thank you for joining our webcast today. I'm David Huffman, speaking to you from Huffman Photo Art Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And for the next few minutes, I'll be talking about exciting Africa safaris and the one we have planned in Kenya and Tanzania. Before we talk about the details of the safari, I thought I'd share with you some pictures of some of the luxury hotels, lodges, and camps that we're likely to be staying in. These are beautiful structures. They feel very authentic, and I think you'll find them to be extremely comfortable. The interiors are well maintained and very, very nice. Here's an interior. This happens to be in Arusha, and it's just the most comfortable I could ever imagine being in. After we get up in the morning and have breakfast, then we'll get out on the safari. This is us setting up for the trip using the Safari 4x4 custom vehicles. There's a close-up of the vehicles and yours truly. And as we're out on safari, you might also see that we'll have some very delicious lunches served by our drivers and the people that help us as guides go around the area. Sometimes they'll be open air, and sometimes we'll actually set up tents and be covered. And speaking of the vehicles and the drivers, here's another shot of all of the vehicles arranged for our lunchtime. And of course, at the end of the day, we'll sit down and we'll talk about where we've been, what we saw, and what the plans are for the next day. And the plans are always to see animals. You'll be surprised and delighted with the number of animals and the different species that we'll see. They include baboons and other types of monkeys, and of course, the ever-present zebras. We'll see many different types of birds, and we'll see some of these animals up close and some at a little greater distance. Lions are ever present, and after they've had their kill, then the vultures will come in and feed on the remains. And of course, we'll see Cape buffalo. I'm David Huffman. I've been a photographer all my adult life, including working for Eastman Kodak in their glory days, which was a very exciting time. My career has taken me all over the world, living and working in the United States, Europe, and Asia. And today in my home market of Atlanta, Georgia, I photograph architecture and real estate and portraits for business and families. I also plan and lead tours on cruise ships and land, from Alaska to the Mediterranean to Africa and more. I also coach one-on-one. So today we're going to talk about a trip planned that covers Kenya and Tanzania, which are my two favorite areas for safari. There are locations with world-class game viewing, where we use experienced drivers and guides to be sure to find the animals, and we'll stay in luxury camps and hotels. I'm going to show you some examples of what those look like. We're going to visit 4 different parks and conservation areas: Amboseli, Nogrongoro, the Serengeti Plains, and the Masai Mara. This map shows the layout of our itinerary. Starting in the upper right-hand corner, we'll meet in Nairobi, then we'll drive to Amboseli, then on after 2 days on to Nogrongoro. After a couple of days, we'll go on to Serengeti, and then we'll end up in the Masai Mara for the last 2 days. And on the last day, we'll actually take an airplane ride from the Masai Mara over to Nairobi to save a little time. Amboseli Park is beautiful. It's a place in Africa that's so unique because it is at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the highest freestanding mountain in the world. So it offers a fabulous place to both view and to photograph animals. We'll see giraffes and vultures. In fact, 400 species of birds are in Amboseli, including water birds like pelicans and kingfishers, and 47 different species of raptors. We'll also see free-ranging elephants. I love zebras. I think they're so much fun. They're very social. When you see these animals in the wild, you won't believe what the experience is because it's so different from anything you've seen before. Cheetahs hunting, lions hunting. In fact, we'll see African bush elephant, Cape buffalo, impala, lions, cheetahs, spotted hyenas, the Maasai giraffe, Grant zebras, and blue wildebeest. And there's some wildebeest and their young. Here's a shot of a secretary bird. And do you know what this is? It's a hyena. After Amboseli, we'll move on to the Nogrongoro Conservation Area, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is protected in Tanzania. It's named after the crater, and I'll show you pictures in just a moment. It's a volcanic caldera, which is 12 miles wide and 2,000 feet deep, and we're going to go deep down into it. It's 100 square miles at the interior. It's the only conservation area in Tanzania that provides wildlife while allowing human habitation. Here's what the entrance looks like. You can see a guide meeting one of the employees of the crater. And here's a view from the top. So you can see how large this is. It's massive. It's really massive. Taken also from that viewpoint with a super telephoto 500 millimeter lens, I could actually see zebra and wildebeest. Next is an example of one of the tent camps. These are permanent tents. They're not pick up and move. And they have wooden floors, running water, flush toilets. It'll be surprising to you how luxurious they are and how much fun it is to stay in a place like this. There's the bath area. You can see they have both a bathtub. They also have an outdoor shower. And as I mentioned a moment ago, they have flush toilets with hot water, dual vanities. They have great areas to eat and dine in and to meet as a group. So this is luxury tenting at its best. Of course, on the edge of the crater, you can see the Maasai still working. In 1921, the first game preservation laws were passed, restricting hunting to permit holders only. By 1928, all hunting was prohibited. There are several other laws that came to pass, including the National Park Ordinance in 1948, that eventually disenfranchised the peaceful Maasai and displaced them. This photograph of this old tusker was taken just after sunrise, about 6 o'clock in the morning. You're not allowed to stay in the crater overnight, so you have to exit by sundown, and then the next morning you can go down just as the sun is breaking and spend all day down in there. Of course, here's another Cape buffalo with a couple of hitchhikers. One of my favorite areas in the crater is the hippo pool. This is what they call home, and you'll see them very close. Now, hippos can be dangerous, but we've never had a problem. The Serengeti Plains is our next stop. This is in Tanzania. It's over 5,700 square miles and 37 million acres of virgin savanna. It's known for the largest animal migration, over 1.5 million blue wildebeest and 250,000 zebras, as the largest lion population in Africa, and over 3,000 lions live here. This is a picture, of course, of wildebeest with their young. While we're there, we might actually get a chance to take an optional balloon ride before sunrise. It's a unique experience that's not to be missed. It has a very high density of leopards, about 6 per 100 square kilometers, over 5,000 elephants, also 28,000 African buffalo. There are also rare black rhinos, and they're protected now, so they have 50 that are breeding. There's the cheetahs, spotted hyenas, the black-backed jackals, African golden wolf, honey badger, serval, mongoose, otters, wild dogs, aardvark, African civet, and bat-eared fox. There are also reptiles, such as crocodile, tortoise, terrapin, Nile monitors, African python, yellow and olive baboons, monkeys, over 500 bird species, including ostrich, secretary birds, and kori bustards. And not all the birds are large. Some of them are very cute and very close up. We might even see a serval. They're very hard to find, and they don't come out much during the day. Now, of course, lions do kill, and they eat their fill, but they only kill what they need. We'll oftentimes see families of elephants up to 3 different generations, babies, young ones, teenagers, and then, of course, the old ones as well. Moving on to the Masai Mara, also called the Mara. It's in Kenya, right next to the Serengeti and Tanzania. It's one of the 7 natural wonders of Africa and one of the 10 wonders of the world. It's at high elevation, actually. It's 5,000 to 7,100 feet, so the temperature is a little bit cooler. Temperature ranges from 54 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. There you'll see wildebeest and antelope. The total area under conservation is 580 square miles today, which is a little smaller than the original reserve. The Maasai were forced to move out. The Maasai are called pastoralists, and they believe that they own all of the cattle in the world. They rely on the land to sustain their cattle and their families. There are estimates today of 500,000 individuals that speak the Maasai language. In the Mara, we'll see wildebeest, topi, zebra, gazelle, the big 5, of course, hyenas, leopards, cheetahs, wild dogs, wildcats, jackals, and foxes. Many species of antelope. We'll see Maasai giraffe, the roan antelope, impala, hartebeests, and many different raptors. And some of the views are also just gorgeous for you landscape photographers. We'll also come face to face in contact with the Maasai, very friendly people. They'll let us come and see their homes, where they live, how they live, and they'll share with us some of their handicrafts for sale. Let's turn our attention now to the photography aspects of going on safari. Travel photography offers exciting image-making opportunities, but you have to be ready. There are many genres of photography while you're on travel: landscape, wildlife, portraits, and even night sky photography. Travel photography can stretch your creative muscles as the day changes. Although I use professional level adjustable cameras, I also teach camera phone users how to make their best photos and videos. But it all starts with preparation. I hope you remain on this webcast to the end, while I'll share some checklists for different types of travel photography. In most cases, telephoto lenses are required to capture animals, to separate them from the background and to see them from a distance. If you haven't used a telephoto or longer zoom lenses, it takes practice to get sharp pictures. I can help you with your equipment or selecting new equipment for that bucket list trip you're planning. Taking pictures, that is, pressing the shutter release, is only the start of a great travel photograph. Processing your images on computer will maximize the technical quality and the emotional content. There are many good software programs, and I can help you choose and use them to your advantage. It requires practice and patience. With your camera, you'll have to understand the basic controls and settings, like the camera modes to set, the controls for aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, settings for white balance and scenes, and you'll have to understand that for both still and video if you want to take some video. It's important to be familiar with your controls because you'll see changing scenes throughout the day, even from moment to moment, and you want to be prepared and capture them. So for wildlife, the checklist is a pretty long one, and I won't go over all the details, but I'll just mention a couple things. You'll generally be using a shutter speed preferred or time value setting. So you set the shutter speed so it's fast enough to capture moving animals, usually at least 1/250th of a second. Could even be as high as 1/2000th or 1/4000th of a second to capture birds in flight. You also want to use continuous autofocus so the camera continues to track the animals as they move, and you want to use a continuous shutter release because it's almost impossible to get the peak moment of action if you only take one picture of it. Here's an example shooting some cheetahs moving. I did capture this with a single image, but generally I would be shooting anywhere from 5 to 20 frames per second to capture that. Landscape or Seascape also has some challenges to it. This list assumes you're using an adjustable camera. These are general recommendations. I'm not going to cover all of these today. However, if you want more information, contact me. For landscapes, quite different from wildlife photography, you'll be using probably an aperture preferred setting, and you'll set your lens from f8 to f11 to increase the depth of field, so you'll have more of the scene in focus. You also want to use lower ISOs in order to maintain detail. Here's an example of a landscape with animals. This happens to be a tower or group of giraffe, and they are the Rothschild's giraffes, which are very rare to see, especially in this kind of number. So I use a setting with a long lens that enable me to keep them in focus and blur the background slightly in order to bring more attention to the warm colors and to the giraffes themselves. For travel photography, it's a very diverse genre. It demands you know your equipment and stay ready for changing conditions in the scenes, in the locations, in the lightings, and the subjects. It's also a great challenge. You generally are going to be using maybe one or two lenses. They're probably going to be zoom lenses, so you don't have to change them very often. You can use more than one type of mode, which is going to be generally a program mode or an aperture preferred setting. And you want to set it, again, to have at least a minimum of 1/125th of a second for moving subjects. Keep in mind, even people walking need to be captured at 1/125th or faster. Here's an example of a travel shot. This is the Maasai, who are known for their dancing and their jumping. This particular shot I made at 1/1000th of a second in order to make him very sharp while he was jumping. Coaching is a unique service I offer at all times, not just for my photo workshops and tours. So if you're interested, please contact me. I'll cover off anything that's important to you, and we'll do it at your pace. My contact information is down there below, huffmanphotoart@gmail.com. I also offer books and video courses, including a new video course covering the digital photography fundamentals. That's the one showing on the right. You can find these on the Apple app for Apple Books, or you can find links on my website. I have several books, actually 14 that I've written on travel photography, and one of them is specific on safari in Eastern Africa, the one that's on the right side of the screen. For $9.95, I think you'll find it to be the best investment ever if you're planning or thinking about an African safari. I'd like to turn for the next few minutes and talk about some things you need to know or you'd like to know about going on safari. And I'm going to go over this slide in some detail. It's really not strenuous from a physical aspect, but you have to be able to walk without assistance. You don't have to worry about walking long distances, although some people do like to do a walking safari or an afternoon when they're out walking. You want to talk to your doctor and get up to date on all your shots, and visit a travel doctor or look at the CDC website to be advised about any other recommendations for immunizations in the areas you're traveling to. Both Kenya and Tanzania advise that you should be carrying anti-malaria medication. And you want to bring all your own medications and first aids because there's no drugstores out there. We'll only drink bottled water and use it for brushing your teeth as well. It's provided. The cuisine is excellent and there are many choices of menu items. You're going to pack pretty light in a soft-sided bag because the hard-sided bags are difficult to pack in the safari vehicles and the small planes. And in fact, on this particular safari, because we have one flight, we'll need to keep your total amount of luggage under 32 pounds, not 35 as indicated on this slide. You really only need to bring 3 to 5 changes of clothing, and generally not bright colors. Stick with the tans and the grays. The weather can be cool at night and it can be warm in the afternoon, so you want to bring and dress in layers. We'll have some cell and Wi-Fi coverage, but while you're on safari, it's really best to try to unplug and enjoy the experience. You'll need up-to-date visas and passports, and you can get the visas in advance online. The voltage for charging your batteries is 220 to 240, and most of your chargers will automatically adjust for that voltage. However, you use a plug with 3 rectangular prongs like the one shown in the right portion of this slide. And you want to bring several extra batteries and memory cards for your cameras. If we're on a live Zoom talk, I'll pause now for questions and answers. If you're viewing this on your own though, you may want to stop for just a moment, note my email, and please feel free to send me your questions. You can find me on the web at huffmanphotoart.com. I have a contact page so you can find me there. You can ask questions and I'll give you help. I actually have a free iPhone video course posted on my website. And you can sign up for coaching, as I mentioned earlier. This concludes my broadcast. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you on tour. Be safe and happy shooting.